Good morning, guys. We are here with the Olmedos brothers, Andres and Diego, and today we are going to be testing out this really bitchin' looking intake manifold. We know that there's been a couple of intake manifolds out there for the VQ37. This one is pretty unique in its own right. So we've got billet aluminum, and it's got a removable upper half, right? So you've got your ports that you would need for brake booster, also for manifold pressure if you need a boost reference. And what's really cool is the bottom half. This is where it all goes down. So we have our velocity stacks here that the brothers have designed. So really excited. We're going to be testing this today on a naturally aspirated setup, and we'll get to see what improvements. Hopefully we'll see some good stuff, because intake manifold design is one of those really tough things to improve upon. You know, the OEs always have lots of time and money invested in coming up with a good intake manifold design, right? So typically, you know, we've seen those GTR conversions. Those are all fine and dandy. They look cool, but they lose a lot of top end power. You know, you can't argue it. It's always going to lose power. You're going to gain some mid-range bottom end power because of the runner design. It's longer, but with all things considered, it'll be cool to see some gains hopefully with this bad boy. So Diego, I'll go ahead and let you take over.
Okay, yeah, so we designed this manifold to try to reflect the stock VHR manifold as much as possible. So try keeping the runner design pretty much similar to what it is now. But even though with this manifold, it has bolt-on velocity stacks, so we can change the length. Changing the length allows us to modify or tune whatever your setup is. If you're going for full ENA, you might want to keep power top end. So shorter run better, or if you want to make them longer, we can also do that. They're all identical, so you can interchange them using 2 bolts for each velocity stacks. The velocity stacks are actually 3D printed. They're made out of glass nylon, so any crazy design isn't that hard as like if you would machine it. As I've said, this intake is fully billet, so the entire thing is all made on the CNC. So that keeps it really strong and makes it look cool as well. For the bottom side, we still use the OEM gasket, as we know that works pretty well. And then the top side, we use a Viton O-ring across the entire perimeter. And for throttle bodies, the same gaskets. The top side still uses a VHR map sensor that bolts on here, so you don't have to modify anything further there. It is ribbed for boost pressure. We did boost test this intake to 60 PSI, so we know it won't blow up. Like we know as a plastic stock manifolds will crack after 25, 30 PSI, and due to the heat, the plastic sometimes expands. So yeah, hopefully we'll make some power out of this thing, and it won't be like other manifolds on the market. Well, they look pretty, but they just look pretty. We want to make power and look pretty at the same time. So that's why we designed this, and let's test it out.
right, guys, so we have finally got some good data on the Olmedos billet intake manifold. So the guys, this is the third time they're here after a few little technical difficulties. Third time is a charm, but you know, we've gone ahead and we've played around with the different size runners, different lengths, diameters, and pretty happy overall. You know, it's tough to make a lot more power, especially on an NA engine with an intake manifold design. You know, the factory spends countless time and money perfecting it, but the brothers here have done a really good job, and there is a few more things that can be done to improve upon the design, we think. So I'll let the brothers take over and they can talk about kind of the whole process of what they've done and where we ended up today with our results.
We're back. We're Olmedos Motorsports. I'm Diego, and this is my brother Andres. And like Seb said, we're back testing the intake after we had some technical difficulties. So last time we came, we only had one version of the velocity stacks like we have here. So we really didn't have that much data to go off of. So we went back to the drawing board. We did more designs of the velocity stacks. So now we have the shortest one, medium length, and then the longest one. And then in the car right now, we have the medium length ones with a wider mouth, and those seems to work best as they made the most power compared to all the velocity stacks, and they made power closest to the OEM intake. But yeah, our goal for this intake was, of course, to make an intake that didn't lose power compared to stock, but if anything, it retained the same power or made more power. But yeah, the overall goal, of course, was to also make an intake that holds a lot of boost. So this intake is fully made on the CNC, and we pressure tested it over 60 pounds, and it hasn't blown up like, as we know, the OEM plastic one blows up past 25 PSI, or it starts to crack the seams just because it's plastic and molded intake. But yeah, we try to keep the results as honest as we could with making it on an NA car. So as you know, with NA, it's super difficult to make power versus a boosted car. Results will grow exponentially. As you know, there's boost added to the back of results. But yeah. All right, so now we can look at the actual graph. So if you look, the red is our current run that we did, and that one has the wide mouth velocity stacks, the medium length, and those seem to work better. And then the blue is the OEM intake. Overall, throughout the entire graphs, they're pretty similar in power. They trade off in power or in torque. But as we see at the upper RPM, the red, which is the billet manifold, takes over and it makes more power. So yeah, that RPM is around over a 6,700 RPM. It starts making the most power. So yeah, we're really happy about that because now we're able to provide the community an intake that makes power, and it can also take the boost pressures. Unlike other manifolds on the market, or even as we know, like the GTR manifold and things like that, that have been proven to lose power.